Hey, what's up, geeks? Darron here. In this video, I'm going to discuss with you how to actually build and plan out a project. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because, I got this idea. A good friend of mine, he reaches out to me because he has a mobile app idea, and I'm not building it for him, but he basically touched base with me because he wants to know what things does he need to consider, how does he need to go about hiring a developer, and that nature and whatnot. So I figured, for a lot of you guys that are watching this video, if you're actually interested in mobile development, that I just go over the steps actually doing that. So yeah, this is off the top of the head. I'm just gonna get into it. So the first thing you need to do is that you need to understand what type of information is this application going to need. What kind of data is this application going to need to work from its users? Now, as an example, to make this clear for you, because you may be a beginner, let's take an application like Instagram. We know Instagram has usernames, they have passwords, they have the profile images, they have that. So let's stick with the username and password. So because Instagram has a username and password, that lets you know that there's a table in your database that's going to have to be a user table. That user table is going to have the person's username, it's going to have their password, and that's really all you need to authenticate, I believe, with Instagram. So that's going to be your authentication table. Next, Instagram, it has posts. So the posts, people can post images, they can post videos. So in your table, you know within your application, the data that you're going to need to collect photos. You know you're going to have to collect videos. A lot of those photos and videos, they also have comments. So you're going to have, your database is going to have to have a section to store comments. It also has likes and things of that nature. So whatever type of application you're building, before you actually even design it, you need to have a clear idea of the data that's going to go into the application. Now, for me as a developer, once somebody shows me the database schema, I already know I have a good idea how the application is going to function. You know, I know what types of questions to ask, and I know what to prepare myself for on the front end, how to build it, and then how to get it to, how to basically get those screens and components to work. The front end of it isn't a big deal to me. You know, that everything is unique, but for the most part, most applications functions the same way. So yeah, the main thing is that you need to have a good idea of the data that's going to go into your company, your application. So yeah, you're going to have a good idea of the data that is going to be used within your application. Now, once you've actually listed all the data, you have your database together, your tables. If you're unsure how to create a database, I would just Google how to create a database or how does a database look, and then that will clear things up. You'll have tables, you have user tables, etc. But once you've had your table, your database put together, you want to start wireframing your application. Do not spend too much time on the wireframe, the design of your application. This is where you can lose a lot of time and money, or money. Working as a developer right now, because it's fun because I work on different projects and learn about a lot of different companies. But one of the things that kills these companies is that they don't they're perfectionists. And because they're perfectionists, they have to keep paying me more money. If it's not in the initial scope of the application, I'll tell them like, okay, cool. I'll let my project manager know, and they'll be like, okay, now this is the price. That's an extra $2,000. You know, you've just added 3 weeks to this project. You know, so I would say when you're building an application, and I would check out some of these, check out a few other not YouTube channels, but a few videos on basically entrepreneurship, mobile app development. And they'll tell you the biggest thing is that when you have an idea, is just to get it out there. All you want to do is put it out there. Nobody's going to use your application because it's perfect, because you don't have any kind of fan base. You haven't done anything to promote it, nothing to sell your application. So don't get caught up in the actual look of it. You just want to put it out there and then just try to promote it a little bit, and then gradually, you know, make changes here and there. So just like I said, the next thing after you have your database, you want to create your wireframe, make sure it's simple, it does what it needs to do. You don't have to have a bunch of features. You just want to make sure you have the main stuff within the application, and then it's out there. All right. Now, once you wireframed it, you're going to have to figure out what tools you're going to have to use to actually build this application. Is this application going to be deployed on both Android and iOS? If so, to save yourself time and money, you're going to want to build the application in React Native. If the application is built solely on Android, you're going to have to use, we got that Android framework. It's growing in popularity, but there's a framework for Android apps. You may want to use that. And if you're going to build an iOS, you may want to build it in Swift. Now, if I was going Android or iOS, either way, I was still doing React, because if you're just building an application for iOS and you build it with React Native, okay, yes, you can deploy it into the iOS store, but you may change your mind, months down the road, say, okay, we have an iOS store, let's put it in Android. Now, because you've already built that application in React Native, you can easily deploy it into the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, because you have one code base. But if you built the application with just specifically for Android using their framework, and then you decide you want it to be in the Apple Store months down the road, then you're gonna have to build two different code bases and then keep them both up to date, and it just kills time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so you want to understand what tools you're going to use on the front end. So that's the front end. You have those tools for the mobile app, and then you want to know, okay, what tools are we going to use to actually host our API? Are we going to use AWS? Or are we going to build the API with Node.js? There's a few other frameworks, but those are the ones that I'm most familiar with that I use. You have to go that route. Then you're going to say, okay, we have this data. We know the data that our application is going to use. How are we going to host our database? The database has to be hosted as well. You may want to. For the most part, people host their database on AWS. That's the most popular one. Google also has Google Cloud. You can host your database there. I'm sure Microsoft has its own way of actually hosting the database too. Now, application structure. So what I mean by application structure is that on the front end, you could just build your entire application in one file. But why would you do that? It's going to be thousands and thousands of lines of code to actually in one file for your application. It's best to find out the best practices to actually structure your project. You have your source directory, you have your components, your containers, you have your state, you have a utilities folder, you have these things of that nature. So you want to make sure that you construct your application in a clean way in case you have to refactor anything. Same thing for the back end. There's a best practices that you can Google for any of these frameworks that you actually choose, and it'll tell you like, okay, this is the way you want to set it up. Explain to you why you want to set it up, because there's always going to be updates and changes. You want to make sure that those updates are handled as smoothly as possible. Same thing for your database. You just want to make sure you're following the best practices. All right. But that's all I have for this video. If there's anything else that you guys, any kind of questions you have for me, feel free to reach out. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out my social media. Also check out the website GeekMODE.tech. I have a course that I'm working on. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend not getting that course right now. I'm actually updating it because this course, you buy any of these courses, you're going to learn something. But I want to make sure that the courses are fun. I want to make sure that they're like real life scenarios that you have to go through as a developer. So I'll make sure I make an announcement about that when that course is basically up to date. And then, you guys can decide from there. But anyways, that's it for this video. I'll touch base with you later. Peace.